Representative Don Bayer, he is a Democrat. He was on CNN this morning, and he gave partial support to the Trump immigration plan.
My assumption is that what comes over from the Senate will probably be a reasonable compromise. It'll have to get 60 votes, and I think that's something that most House Democrats and Republicans can live with. The fear is that Paul Ryan won't put the Senate bill on the floor. He's likely to put something much more punitive, something like the so-called Goodlatte bill, which looks like it was written by Stephen Miller. That's what we're likely to see. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many Democrats voted no on the funding bill last week, because we thought it was the only leverage we had to get a good immigration bill in the House.
Now, what about funding for the wall?
Could you accept some funding for the wall?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I don't think it has to be
20 billion?
Well, I don't know what the number is, but I think Democrats are willing to compromise. They just don't want to see something that is so wholeheartedly punitive on the immigration policy we've had the last 50 years.
Okay, fine, fair enough. But he's not flat out saying, no, we're not going to work with the Democrats or with the Republicans on this. No, we're not going to back the Trump plan. And the Trump plan, let's be clear, is very reasonable. It is. It's very reasonable by Democratic standards, right? He wants to give citizenship, a pathway to citizenship for 1.8 million people. 1.8 million immigrants. So in theory, the Democrats should be on board. But it's that 1.8 million illegal immigrants who might then become citizens that is giving some heartburn to some Republicans. Representative Marsha Blackburn, Republican, was on Fox News and said she doesn't want to support a plan with any amnesty.
I'm one of those that says let's begin with no amnesty. Pardon me, no amnesty at all. And then let's begin to work through this process. Secure the border, end chain migration, end the visa lottery system. Make certain that we do those things so we do not circle back again and continue having this discussion.
I guess I don't see as a pathway to citizenship amnesty. It doesn't seem like amnesty to me. And I suppose we can pretend that we would, if we were in the similar situation to a dreamer who was brought here by their parents or some adult when we were 6 years old, and the only thing we really know or remember and understand is the American language, or the English language, living in America, the community that we grew up in, the city that we grew up in. I guess we can pretend if we were that person at the age of 18, we would reflect back on the fact that we were brought here illegally at 6 years old, say, you know, I'm a fixer wrong. I'm going to go back to Mexico. I'm going to go back to Honduras. Still leave. Of course, none of us would do that. And yet we expect that an 18 or 19-year-old is going to do that, understanding the errors of their ways. And it wasn't even their ways. They were brought here. So I do not view this as amnesty. And now maybe that makes me a minority in the Republican Party, or maybe it makes me a minority in those of you who are listening. I just don't believe that.
We cannot have individuals get in the queue in front of individuals that have been legally working through this process for years. I know families that have spent every dollar they've made, every dollar they've saved, and 10 years trying to get their citizenship through the legal process. It is completely inappropriate for someone to get in the queue in front of them.
How about then make it easier for the people who have been doing it the right way to get in? I mean, you can do it both ways. It's not that difficult. I mean, yeah, I guess it's not that difficult. But the theory isn't, right? In theory, it's easy. I suppose on the ground it's a little bit more difficult. Let's find out what else is trending.
What's trending in Trumplandia?
So the infrastructure plan is finally out, coming from President Trump. He wants to spend $1.7 trillion. This plan is aiming to fix America's infrastructure issues, and we have many infrastructure issues. However, he's not really spending $1.7 trillion. We're calling it the $1.7 trillion plan. I don't even know why he's calling it that, outside of maybe telling the country that we're really serious about fixing stuff. It's a $200 billion plan. That's really what this is, at least from federal funds. He's offering up $200 billion in the form of grant money. And by the way, not even the full $200 billion. There's about $100 billion in grant money that will be given to local municipalities, states, to come up with their own projects, fund their own projects. So for every $4 you spend on the local level, the federal government is going to give you $1. $50 billion of that is going specifically towards rural areas in the United States. Now, Democrats are against it because they say it adds to the deficit. However, their plan also would add to the deficit because the Democrats federally want to spend 5 times what the president is spending. They want to spend $1 trillion in federal funding. Now, they claim in a memo that they put out that it doesn't add add to the deficit. They don't actually explain how it does not add to the deficit. If the $200 billion adds to the deficit, then clearly $1 trillion is going to add to the deficit. Chuck Schumer is not a fan of the bill. The president is pushing it. What do normal Democrats feel? In any, normal world, in theory, the Democrats would have supported this. Now, if this came out in 2017, let's say this was the first bill that the president pushed out, that he made a priority on this when he first became president, he would have immediately got bipartisan support. They might not have agreed on all the particulars, and they would do some negotiating. They would move stuff around. They would make it a little bit more palatable. I can't say that word, but I always want to the Democrats, to the liberals. But the truth is they would be on the side of this project, and normally Republicans would not. Republicans aren't fans of huge infrastructure bills. We're just not. Because we know that they don't actually work very well. You can look at what was done under Obama, all these shovel-ready projects. One, they weren't shovel-ready. Two, they barely got done. Some of them didn't get done at all. And so Republicans generally are against things like this. Now, speaking to the press, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was out there, White House press secretary. I've noticed everyone stopped saying Huckabee now. They just say Sarah Sanders. Why?
I don't know what it's better.
Yeah. It just stopped about 2 months ago, but I'm like that last holdout. I'm saying Huckabee. I like it. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Sounds fun. Sounds like she knows how to party. Well, she was out there. She was pushing the infrastructure plan. And April Ryan, a White House reporter who is fervently anti-Trump, decides to try to imply that under the Trump infrastructure plan, Hispanic workers might not be eligible for the jobs on the project. Now, Sarah Huckabee Sanders decides to just get away from that question, or maybe she didn't realize it was happening at the time, but she pivots.
On infrastructure. Infrastructure is about jobs, job creation, and you're talking about rural America. When you're talking about these jobs, are there going to be guidelines as to who can and who won't be hired?
Not that I'm aware of anything to that nature.
A lot of the infrastructure projects during the Obama years, when Hilda Fleet was Labor Secretary, a lot of those jobs went to Hispanic. And
A lot of those jobs were never completed or started. They were announced, but nothing ever happened on them. We're expecting a very different result to actually announcing complete projects versus just announcing and doing nothing.
So Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she goofed there, right? She already knew what she wanted to get out as an attack on the Obama administration because she was expecting this thing to be compared to that. And in doing so, I don't think she did this on purpose, but she pivoted away from an implication that April Ryan was making, which is a ridiculous accusation on its face, right? Oh, so under Obama they hired a lot of Hispanics. Yeah, and why would anything be different? The person who applies for the job will get the job. Oh, because I guess Trump is a bigot who hates Hispanic people. Is that what you're saying, April Ryan? Here's the rule. Here's something that I can guarantee will happen under Trump because it happened under Obama. Illegal immigrants are not going to be eligible to be hired for these jobs. Is that what you're talking about, April Ryan? Because then it's asked and answered. Oh, it's not. You just wanted to pretend that Trump hates Hispanic people, so he's not going to be willing to hire them, even though he has nothing to do with the hiring process, by the way. Okay, well then the answer is yes. Hispanics will be able to work. So will white people. So will black people. So will Asians. The list goes on and on. It's just a stupid, lame attempt at attacking them, which is why later on in the show, in fact at 8:30, Fox News media critic Howard Kurtz is going to join us to talk about the unfair treatment of President Trump by the media. But first, when we come back, we're going to jump into this Oxfam scandal. You will not believe this. It's insane how bad it is. We're going to get into that when we come back. But first, it's time to get you work the right way with Right Way Travel.
Traffic slowing down quite a bit in both directions through Fife and Tacoma on I-5. The rest of the commute is breaking down, especially between the South End and I'd say Renton, although we are left with some heavy traffic northbound on the Valley Freeway that's now moving between 516 and 405 after an accident here. Mostly got pushed over to the left. It's still kind of crowding that left lane. And an earlier accident southbound 5 near 520 in Seattle is gone, but it left a backup as well. Both 520 and I-90 in both directions heavy over the water, and South 405 is a little bit heavier than South 5 coming over the Snohomish-King County line. Traffic brought to you this time by Lucky Eagle Casino and Hotel. See last comic standing winner Felipe Esparza on stage at Lucky Eagle on Saturday, the 24th. Tickets and details at luckyeagle.com. That's AM 770 KTTH traffic. I'm Tammy Bennett.
What caused you to call American Crawl Space Cleanouts?
Putting our house on the market, and we had a home inspector come out, and it was determined that we had rodents that had gotten into the installation in the crawl space. Normally when you use a contractor, you always kind of wonder, they'll give you a time when they show up, and you're always kind of leery. Well, the job exceeded our expectations, and we were very, very pleased with the service.
Well, look, the guys at American Crawl Space Cleanouts will be happy to hear that. I've endorsed them now on the radio for 2 years. And how'd they treat you personally when you got them out to the house? On time, tidy, polite?
They were the whole 9 yards. Was just phenomenal.
So I imagine this is going to help you sell the house.
It did. Our house, we put the house on the market, and house sold in 10 days.
Congratulations. And you got some money you're happy with, right?
Oh, by all means. Well, of course, the real estate market up in Seattle is extremely hot, and we sold the house for way over our asking price.
Oh, man. American Crawl Space Cleanouts got to participate in that. I love it, Bill.
Where's your signature window and door?
And he was talking about Steve Wynn, the head of Wynn Casinos, who also seems to have a lot of credible evidence against him. But she said something very vague yesterday, like, well, when Trump said that he wished Rob Porter to do well he wishes every American to do well. He wasn't really endorsing him particularly.
And to explain why this background check is important, I think one of the other reporters raised the question that this might have been a blackmail threat, that somebody could have potentially blackmailed Porter and said, if you don't do what we say, or whisper in the president's ear, will reveal your sordid past.
Yes, that's why they do background checks like this, and this is sort of, I think, a textbook case of somebody who was blackmailable. And we now know that as these allegations began to peter out, instead of standing up and saying, yes, I did this and I'll resign, he was calling his ex-wives, lobbying them to change their story, trying to get people from around the government to defend him. That's the kind of person who obviously wants to hide this, and you're right. Whether or not he was blackmailed, there's a huge potential for that.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the whiplash department now. During the campaign, was I imagining, or did Donald Trump actually promise that he would get rid of the $19 trillion federal debt in 8 years?
He did say that. He did talked about how as soon as he got in, he would take care of that pesky deficit, and we seem to be not headed in that direction. In fact, headed in the opposite direction.
Yeah, well, not only not headed in that direction, but according to his new budget, by the time it's over, he would add $7 trillion to the debt. So is there an official story explaining that?
Not really from him. We got here, and this deficit thing is the increase in deficits under Trump and the Republicans is relatively new. It started with the tax bill that the Republicans passed in December, cutting taxes for all these different folks, cutting tax revenue overall for the government. It continued with this spending bill, this bipartisan spending bill that jacks spending way up that just passed. And the excuse has been, this will pay for itself over time. The economy will grow so fast. But really, all these Republicans who were elected in 2010, 2012, 2014 on the promise of our debt is too big, our deficit is killing us, we need to get spending under control, have essentially abandoned that because their president has abandoned it. And I've never seen anybody reverse themselves on something that was so core to their identity so quickly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Bill Clinton, early on in his administration, had said no new taxes, and the first thing he did was pass a middle-class tax increase. This goes in the opposite direction, of course. But what I'm wondering is, there has been considerable research, at least on the Republican side, indicating that a debt at this level can eventually be paralyzing. Now, I'm prepared to believe that that analysis is wrong, but I'd like to hear it from somebody, because otherwise, the specter they've laid out there is that we could be in line for some pretty intense inflation if this doesn't pay for itself.
That's right, and you've actually seen that reflected on Wall Street. The big drops of last week on Wall Street were in part because people feared interest rates would go up because there'd be fears about inflation. So yes, I have not really seen anybody credibly say, here's a global view of how we as Republicans think that this huge deficit and increasing debt is a good thing. You've heard people talk about pieces of it, like wasn't the tax bill good? We have to spend more to help our military. But in terms of, the way before when they would talk about the debt, it was this holistic view that the debt's going to kill us if we let it get too big. Right. We have to fight it wherever we can. That kind of holistic view is gone.
All right, so this will be up to Congress, of course. The president doesn't get to impose his budget. Congress will negotiate this, and presumably they'll go through the whole process. Actually, I should ask you that. Is this going to be one of those rare times where they actually go through and approve all 13 departments and put a real budget in place?
No. I don't think there's any chance that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to approve President Trump's budget. President's budgets, and both parties never going to approve. But I don't believe this is a year when, in an election year, they want to have sort of regular order and pass appropriations bills one at a time. I think they're going to do what they've continued to do, which is pass giant spending bills at the last minute and not try to do it in any sort of organized, coherent way.
Well, they're doing that debate, though. They're doing the immigration debate. That represents a sea change, doesn't it?
That is really interesting. This is that we're seeing under Mitch McConnell, and who promised the Democrats he would do this, sort of throwing open the question of what happens to the so-called dreamers, the undocumented immigrants allowed to stay in this country. Whether they'll accept Trump's proposal to let them stay in exchange for a huge increase in border wall funding and cuts in legal immigration. Whether they'll do something else. One thing we've seen is the Democrats have not really come to the table with any sort of coherent proposal of their own. No. They're opposing what Trump and other people have done, but I haven't seen them say, look, this is our way. It's part of the general kind of paralysis by the Democratic leadership in Congress.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out, though. What comes out of that? So what will the debate lead to? Or is the debate just there for the sake of giving the Democrats a chance to have a debate? Or is there some new proposal that might emerge from this?
I think there's a chance a proposal will emerge from this. I think there's a bipartisan group working on immigration. There's been this proposal from Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas, that's a lot like Trump's proposal. I think a bunch of stuff will get votes. I really don't know what could actually get a vote. And if it does pass the Senate, I think there's even less of a chance that something that legalizes the dreamers would pass the House. So I don't know. It's a rare time, as you said, when we see the Senate plunging into a really interesting debate in the way that we always imagined the Senate would plunge into a debate without really having an outcome foreordained. I don't really know what's going to come out of it.
Okay, but if they don't do this, if they don't put this fix in place for the DACA people, these 1.8 million, do the deportation vans start going through the neighborhood? I mean, we're getting reports now of cases, these heart-wrenching cases where, some guy who's lived here all his life is being taken away from his family and his kids, and they can't make their house payments anymore. You're going to do this 700,000 times?
It's a great question. I think the Democrats are betting that Trump really won't go through with it, that he'll back off, that he's just saying he'll deport these folks immediately for leverage. Trump has said things like, well, they won't be a priority for deportation. But what we've seen from ICE is that they're now they've changed the way they enforce the deportation laws. So they're not just going after people who are criminals and in the criminal justice system. They're deporting anybody they come in contact with who happens to be undocumented. So the chances that a dreamer, so-called dreamer, would get caught up in that kind of enforcement are much higher. So, what happens after March 5th, which is the deadline, if there is no action in Congress? I think we really don't know, but I think the Democrats are betting that Trump really won't go through with it in a wholesale way.
David Fahrenthold joining us live from the Washington Post. David, thanks very much.
Thank you.
It is 8:23 real-time traffic. Brought to you by Subaru Puyallup. Here's Chris Sullivan.
If you can afford to pay the toll, you might want to consider taking 520 at this point, whether you're going east or westbound across the lake, because I-90 is not where you want to be. We're looking at 20-minute delays in the eastbound direction trying to get from Seattle over to Bellevue. Not only do we have the sunshine to deal with, and the glare is strong, believe me, but then we have an accident in the HOV lane, which now with the aid guys there has blocked the left general purpose lane. So 2 lanes are blocked in the eastbound direction, and it's taking you 45 minutes now to get from Seattle to Bellevue on I-90. That's a 20-minute delay over what you would expect. Looking in the eastbound direction, it's also pretty slammed across Mercer Island, and a lot of people are looking at that as they come out of the lid on the east side or west side of Mercer Island, and so we're looking at 35 minutes now from Bellevue to Seattle on I-90. The lake 520 is manageable. The rest of the drive, manageable as well. I mean, we have heavy pockets of solid slowing, like through the Renton-S curves on 405 northbound, but you're at 35 minutes to make that drive. An hour and 10 minutes from both Everett to Seattle or Everett to Bellevue is manageable. Still have a lot of heavy slowing through downtown Tacoma on I-5 northbound. Again, a lot of that is in that portion when you're actually driving east as you come around the corner by the dome and you hit the sun right in your face again. That's another sunshine slowdown. And the Valley Freeway is looking good. We cleared the crash that was right pulling out of the Highway 18 interchange. This report brought to you by Subaru Puyallup. Treat yourself to a Subaru Puyallup stress-free experience like convenient online shopping of over 700 vehicles with the one you love. Subaru Puyallup, your stress-free dealership.
Yeah, got to do something about that sunshine. And we will. The clouds will move in today, and they'll be bringing on and off showers for the next 6 days or so. Otherwise, A gorgeous morning. We are gaining 22 minutes of sunlight every week at this point. Sunset is at 5:29 tonight, and right now 29 degrees at the Carter Subaru studio. Coming up, sometimes people with money have to be reminded when they're giving it away, do no harm.
Particularly in education, there are some serious victims along the way. If you're disrupting schools and student learning to test a new model and it doesn't pan out.
Coming up on Cairo Radio.
Sully in the morning.
It's one of those days where you're 10 minutes late before you even walk out the door.
Tracy Taylor in the afternoon.
90 is starting to really slow down coming off of Mercer Island.
Traffic on the threes on Cairo Radio 97.3 FM.
If you're ready to sell your home, you've thought about how hot the market is and how much equity you have in your house. And I imagine you'd like to keep most or all of that equity. And not paying a listing commission is a great way to start. If you're thinking of selling your home, think about FARA. It's a new way to sell that's more transparent, will save you thousands in commission fees, while still providing all the services you want and need. Professional photos of your home, a complete and independent home inspection, an MLS listing. Plus, those offers you're going to get will be online, which makes negotiating easy and the whole process transparent. And FARA has hundreds of happy customers, like Keith, a local business owner, who said, FARA was great to work with. They guided us through the entire process from listing all the way through closing. Best of all, we saved $13,500 that would have been paid in commissions. It's time you discovered FARA for yourself. Call 1-800.
Jerry Mixon tonight at 7:07 at the Linwood Embassy Suites. To register, go to lmclinic.com, lmclinic.com, or call 866-86-YOUNG. Or just show up and register at the door. But no matter what you do, don't put up with normal in 2018. Go to lmclinic.com.
Your home gives you warning signs when its foundation is failing. Cracked or buckling walls, uneven floors, stuck windows and doors are telling you that your foundation is weak and that you need to repair it soon. This is former Attorney General Rob McKenna talking about how the local Northwest business Terra Firma Foundation Systems can help repair your foundation with confidence. Since 2005, Terra Firma has helped thousands of Northwest homeowners with their foundation problems. They've seen it all and are the only BBB-accredited foundation repair company I recommend. Terra Firma uses innovative products and provides exceptional service while offering the best repair solutions for your home's foundation needs at an affordable price. Don't delay. If you live in King, Pierce, or Thurston counties, schedule a free home inspection with a local Terra Firma expert today. Search Terra Firma Foundation Systems on the web or call 866-486-7196. Again, call 866-486-7196 or web search TERRAFIRMA Foundation Systems.
From the Online Trading Academy studio, this is AM 770 KTTH.
Let's get something clear. We already know that the media is unfair to President Trump. They were unfair during the campaign. They are still currently treating him unfairly. Why exactly are they doing that? And is that going to damage the brand of outlets like CNN that at one point used to be seen as down the middle? Well, we're going to find that out. Joining me in just about 30 seconds, Howard Kurt's got a brand new book out. You know him best as the Fox News media critic. We're going to talk about Donald Trump and how the media is coming after him. But first, it's time to get to work the right way with Right Way Traffic.
I was just looking at increased pressure on Highway 9 when I found out there was an accident at Highway 2 in the northbound direction, but they just cleared that and it's moving again. Accident on the shoulder in Auburn, northbound 167 approaching 15th Northwest, still slowing things from 410. And now we've got a new crash hogging up 2 lanes, eastbound 90 approaching West Mercer Way with stop-and-go traffic from the west end of the Mount Baker Tunnel already. This is the left general purpose and the HOV lane blockages. Traffic gets by in the 2 right lanes. This report brought to you by Unbound. Open a world of opportunity for a child or elder dreaming of a better tomorrow at unbound.org. That's AM 770 KTTH Traffic. I'm Tammy Bennett.
Welcome back to the Jason Rand Show on AM 770 KTTH and 94.5 FM in the Greater East Side. The media from the start of his campaign took on Donald Trump as a joke, and then he became their enemy. Now, as president, the media has been relentless in their attack. This campaign against the president is at the heart of a new book, Media Madness, Donald Trump, the Press, and the War Over the Truth. The author is Howard Kurtz. He is the media critic from Fox News, and he joins me now. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Great to be with you.
So in a perfect world, what should the media's job be in covering the White House and President Trump?
Media should cover this president, as with every president, aggressively. There's sort of a built-in adversarial relationship. I have no problem with that. But when you look at it, and one of the reasons I was motivated to write this book, I mean, none of us have ever seen anything like this. The relentless negativity, not just tone and volume, it's so personal that you have to dig deeper and wonder why that is. And by the way, the president contributes to that. This is also a book that goes behind the scenes at the Trump White House. He obviously spends a lot of time attacking the media in general, fake news and all that, news organizations by name, journalists by name, and this has become not just a contentious relationship, but a highly dysfunctional one.
Is he making it easy for the media to go after him?
You know, the paradox here is this president actually provides more access to journalists than most of his predecessors. I mean, the book I talk about, NBC's Chuck Todd, they have a pretty contentious relationship, and yet he has had Todd over to the White House numerous times for off-the-record meetings. And what I'm told is they usually start out with Trump yelling at Chuck. Chuck yells back at him. Then they have a civil conversation, and after one such meeting, Chuck Todd said to Hope Hicks, the communications director, "We just can't quit each other." So does the president make it easy? Yeah, he is somebody who stirs it up, who loves to attack people and belittle them on Twitter. I think sometimes that works very well for him. I also think the president has every right to hit back hard against news coverage he thinks is unfair, but sometimes he goes too far. Media are not the enemy of the American people. They are sometimes their own worst enemy. So in a way, he makes it easy, but I think also the relentless negativity and sometimes hostility of the mainstream media against Donald Trump makes it easy for his supporters, and there's this whole chunk of the country out there, you know, that's not the elite in New York, L.A., and Washington, that thinks that the coverage is just tremendously unfair, and also these people, the Trump supporters, think that the elite media look down on them, look at them condescendingly, and there's evidence in my book that that's sometimes true.
Well, so let's look at the Russian collusion story and the investigation into it. Let's look at that specifically and talk about how do you believe the media is failing on that one story?
All right, well, first of all, it's a legitimate story. You have a special counsel appointed by the Deputy Attorney General, who's a Trump appointee, and there have already been a handful of guilty pleas and indictments. So, obviously, it's a story. Now, at the same time, so I don't believe it's fake news, as the president likes to call it, or necessarily a witch hunt. But after a year, it is increasingly evident that there is little evidence that we know of any actual collusion with Russia. So what the media are doing is sort of moving the goalposts, saying, well, he may not have colluded, but there could be obstruction because of certain actions taken by the president and his staff, and that does seem to be what Bob Mueller is focusing on. My problem with that coverage is that it is overheated. It is breathless. If you tune in any night, and there's a contrast here between Fox News in prime time, which is largely supportive of the president, and CNN and MSNBC, which are so fixated on the Russia story that even an incremental development is treated like the next Watergate. So my view of this is, if everything's an 11, then nothing's an 11. And so that's why I think the coverage of Russia, and we'll see how it pans out, I think it is gotten a bit too breathless.
Just joining me, I'm talking with Howard Kurtz. He is a media critic with Fox News, but more importantly, at least for this conversation, he's the author of a brand new book. It's called